Once upon a time, in a village in Ikwere, Rivers State, there lived a beautiful girl named Ijeoma. She was a kind and hard-working girl who had lost her mother at a very young age. Her father had remarried a woman who was not kind to her. This new woman had two children for Ijeoma's father, a boy named Emeka and a girl named Chine. Sadly, a few years after the birth of these children, Ijeoma's father also passed away, leaving her alone in the care of her stepmother. Since the day her father died, life had been very difficult for Ijeoma. Her stepmother did not love her and treated her badly every single day. She made her do all the housework and never showed her any kindness. Ijeoma tried her best to obey and respect her stepmother, but nothing she did was ever enough. She was always shouted at, beaten, and insulted. While her stepmother's children played and rested, Ijeoma was forced to work from morning until night without rest. One morning, Ijeoma woke up early, swept the compound, washed the plates, cleaned the kitchen, fetched water from the stream, and even prepared breakfast for the family. After she had finished all her work, she felt very tired and decided to rest for a little while. She sat on a wooden bench outside the house and closed her eyes for a short nap. But her rest did not last long. Suddenly, she felt something very cold splash all over her body. She quickly opened her eyes and realized that she was drenched in water. She shivered as she looked up and saw her stepmother standing over her, holding an empty bowl. Her face was full of anger, and her eyes burned with rage. Ijeoma was confused and scared. She did not understand why her stepmother had poured water on her. She had done all her work. She had made sure the house was clean. She had finished all her duties before deciding to rest. But it seemed that no matter what she did, her stepmother was never pleased. She quickly got up from the bench, her clothes completely wet. Her stepmother continued to look at her with anger. Ijeoma knew that something was wrong, but she did not know what it was. Her stepmother shouted at her and accused her of being lazy. She told Ijeoma that she was good for nothing and only knew how to sleep and eat. She said that Ijeoma was trying to act like the owner of the house, sleeping on her bench as if she had worked hard enough to deserve it. Ijeoma tried to explain that she had finished all her chores, but her stepmother did not want to hear any excuse. She told Ijeoma that she was still useless and had not yet fetched firewood for cooking. Ijeoma was surprised because she knew that fetching firewood was not her duty. Chine, her stepmother's daughter, was supposed to fetch the firewood that day. Ijeoma tried to remind her stepmother that it was Chine's turn, but this only made her stepmother even angrier. Her stepmother shouted at her again and told her that she had no right to share housework in the house. She mocked Ijeoma and told her that if she thought she was wise, she should also tell Emeka to help with the work. But she knew that would never happen. Emeka, being the only son, was treated like a prince and never had to do any chores. It was always Ijeoma who suffered. Her stepmother then accused her of spending all her time chasing boys in the village instead of doing her work. She told Ijeoma that she was good for nothing and warned her to go to the bush immediately and fetch the firewood before she got even angrier. Ijeoma tried to plead with her stepmother one more time, hoping she would listen. But instead of answering her, her stepmother gave her a heavy slap across the face. The slap was so strong that Ijeoma fell to the ground. She held her cheek in pain. Her eyes filled with tears. Her stepmother then pushed her again, causing her to hit the ground even harder. Ijeoma slowly stood up from the ground, her body aching from the fall. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she knew better than to cry in front of her stepmother. crying would only make things worse. She wiped her tears quickly and walked toward the kitchen. She picked up a strong rope and left for the bush to fetch firewood. As she walked, she felt sad and lonely. She wished her father was still alive. When he was there, things were not perfect, but at least he loved her and protected her. Now, she had no one to care for her. Her stepmother was the only family she had, but she treated her like a slave. She walked deeper into the bush, looking for dry wood to gather. She was careful as she moved, watching out for snakes and dangerous animals. She had been coming to the bush for firewood since she was little, so she knew the safest places to go. But today, she felt weaker than usual. The pain from the slap was still fresh, and the hunger in her stomach made her dizzy. She had not eaten that morning because her stepmother only gave food to her own children first. If there was anything left, then Ijeoma could eat, but today there had been nothing left for her. Still, she continued walking. She gathered as many sticks as she could find and tied them together with the rope. The load was heavy, but she knew she had no choice. She had to carry it home. She bent down, lifted the firewood onto her head, and started the long walk back to the house. As she walked, she thought about her life. She wondered if things would ever get better. She had no one to talk to, no one to help her. She felt trapped in a life that was full of pain and suffering. But deep inside her heart, she still had hope. She believed that one day something good would happen to her. She believed that one day she would be free from all the pain. She walked and walked until she finally reached the house. Her stepmother was waiting for her with a frown on her face. Ijeoma dropped the firewood on the ground and stood there, waiting for what would happen next. Ijeoma usually went to the bush alone whenever it was her turn, but somehow it was always her turn. Her stepmother never sent Chinai, and she never complained because she knew no one would listen. This time, she was not alone. She was joined by her friends, Ezine, Amaka, and Precious. These three had been her friends for a long time. They always went to the stream together to fetch water, and they always found time to talk and share the latest news in the village. Among them, Ezine was the most beautiful. Her beauty was admired by many women, and men from their village and the nearby villages had asked to marry her. But she refused them all. Her pride and the desire for something greater had made her say no to every proposal. No one could change her mind. She always said she was waiting for someone special, someone different from all the men she had met. That day, as they walked through the narrow path that led to the bush, they talked and laughed. They had heard the news that the prince was returning to the village, and the excitement in their voices could not be hidden. Everyone in the village had been talking about it. The prince had been away in London for a long time, and now he was finally coming back. Many people could not wait to see him, and Ijeoma felt the same way. The thought of the prince being close to them made her heart race with excitement. She did not know what he looked like, but she had heard stories about him. As they walked deeper into the bush, they gathered firewood, searching through the dry branches and picking the ones that would burn well. They worked hard, but they continued talking, laughing, and dreaming about the prince. Precious, who was always full of confidence, was already planning how she would make the prince notice her. Amaka, too, had dreams of being noticed. But Ijeoma, though excited, did not think she stood a chance. She was just a girl living with a stepmother who treated her badly. Why would a prince ever notice her? But still, the thought of seeing him made her happy. After gathering enough firewood, they placed them on their heads and made their way back home. The sun was slowly setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. The path back home was long, but with friends beside her, it did not feel so difficult. They talked about the feast that would be held in the palace and how they wished they could be there to see the prince up close. But they all knew that only important people in the village would be invited. When they reached the village, they each went their separate ways. Ijeoma carried her firewood home, her body tired from the long walk, but her heart still full of excitement. When she arrived, her stepmother was sitting outside, watching Chinai, who was busy with her phone. Without being told, Ijeoma knew what was expected of her. She quickly dropped the firewood and went straight to the kitchen to start preparing dinner. Her stepmother never let her rest. No matter how tired she was, there was always something for her to do. The days passed quickly, and soon the prince arrived. The news spread through the village like wildfire. Everyone was talking about it. People who had never been to the palace wished they could see him. Women dressed in their finest clothes, hoping to catch a glimpse of him as he passed. Men gathered in small groups, discussing how things would change now that the prince was back. The excitement in the air was strong. Ijeoma and her friends could not hide their joy. They were jumping and clapping their hands like little children. The thought of the prince being so close made them feel like they were part of something big. Though they knew they would not be invited to the palace, they still felt happy just knowing he was there. It was the biggest news in the village, and everyone wanted to be a part of it in some way. The king announced that a grand feast would be held in 2 nights to celebrate the prince's return. The palace would be filled with important guests, elders, and those who had been invited. Ijeoma knew that her stepmother and her children had received an invitation. She, of course, had not been invited. It was not a surprise to her. She had never been considered part of the family. So why would she be invited to something so grand? Just when she thought she would miss out completely, something unexpected happened. The palace had requested the best drum player in the village to perform at the feast. Everyone knew that Ijeoma played the drum better than anyone else. Even though her stepmother never praised her for anything, the people in the village could not deny her talent. She had been recommended, and she was chosen. Ijeoma could not believe it. She had been given a chance to be part of something she never imagined. Though she was only going there to play the drums, it meant she would be inside the palace. She would see the prince with her own eyes. She would be part of the celebration, even if it was in a small way. The thought of it made her heart beat faster. For once, something good had happened to her. As the day of the feast approached, the excitement in the village grew even stronger. People talked about what they would wear, how they would celebrate, and what the prince would say. The palace was being decorated, food was being prepared, and everything was set for a night that would be remembered by all. Ijeoma, though nervous, was ready for what was to come. She did not know what the night would bring, but she knew one thing: she would finally step into the palace. And for her, that was more than enough. The day finally came, and the whole village was filled with excitement. People gathered in large numbers, singing and dancing in joy. It was a special day, and everyone wanted to witness it. Children ran around happily, playing and laughing. Women carried baskets of food on their heads, while men stood in groups discussing the greatness of the event. The palace was decorated beautifully, with colorful fabrics hanging everywhere. The drummers were already in place, waiting to entertain the people. Ijeoma was at home, rushing to finish her chores. Her stepmother had given her extra work, knowing it would make her late. She scrubbed the pots, swept the compound, and fetched water from the stream. She knew she had to hurry, or she would miss the big moment. Her heart pounded in her chest as she completed the last task and ran off to the event. When she arrived, the prince was about to step out of the royal house. Without wasting time, she positioned herself among the drummers. She picked up her drum and started playing. Her hands moved swiftly, creating a sweet and rhythmic sound. The crowd cheered, clapping their hands in excitement. The elders nodded in approval, enjoying the beautiful sound she produced. Even the prince could not take his eyes off her. He watched her with admiration, smiling as he listened to her play. Ijeoma played with all her heart, her fingers moving skillfully over the drum. The sound was so pleasing that everyone felt the music deep in their souls. The atmosphere was filled with happiness. Even the birds in the sky seemed to dance to the rhythm of her drum. People sang along, clapping and stomping their feet in joy. The celebration became more lively because of her music. Her stepmother stood in a corner, watching with jealousy. She wished she had given Ijeoma more work so she would not have had the chance to impress the prince. She clenched her fists in anger, her heart burning with envy. After a while, the prince raised his hand, signaling Ijeoma to stop. The drumming slowly faded, and silence filled the air. The prince stepped forward and addressed the crowd. He thanked everyone for coming and appreciated the drummers for their performance. When he turned to Ijeoma, he smiled warmly and thanked her specially for the wonderful music. Ijeoma felt her cheeks grow warm. She quickly turned her face away, feeling shy. The people cheered once more as the celebration continued. There was plenty to eat and drink, and everyone was happy. As Ijeoma stood quietly, enjoying the moment, she suddenly noticed the prince walking towards her. Her heart began to race. She did not know what to do or where to look. She took a deep breath and stood still as he approached. The prince smiled at her. His presence was strong and commanding. He smelled of expensive perfume and his voice was gentle. Ijeoma kept her head down, afraid to meet his eyes. He introduced himself as Prince Henry and asked for her name. Ijeoma answered in a small voice, telling him she was called Ijeoma. The prince nodded, saying her name was beautiful. He asked if she was from the village, and she replied that she was. As they stood talking, Ijeoma inhaled his scent. His voice sounded sweet, like a song. She felt happy but nervous at the same time. She did not know why the prince was talking to her, but she liked it. From a distance, her stepmother watched them. Her face darkened with anger. She could not believe what she was seeing. Her jealousy grew stronger. Without wasting time, she marched towards them. She grabbed Ijeoma's arm roughly and pulled her away from the prince. Without saying a word to him, she dragged Ijeoma home, her children following behind her. When they got home, her stepmother pushed her to the ground. Ijeoma fell, feeling pain in her arms and legs. She looked up with tears in her eyes. Her stepmother's voice was full of rage. She shouted at Ijeoma, calling her wicked. She accused her of trying to take the prince away from her daughter. Ijeoma did not understand why her stepmother was so angry. She had done nothing wrong. She tried to defend herself, but her stepmother was too furious to listen. Chiney, her stepmother's daughter, stood beside her mother, her hands on her waist. She insulted Ijeoma, saying she was just like her parents, who were foolish and useless. Emeka, her stepmother's son, also mocked her. He reminded her of how her parents had died. His words were cruel and painful. Ijeoma felt her heart break. It was not her fault that her parents had died. She wished they were still alive to protect her from this cruelty. She pleaded with them to stop blaming her parents, but they refused to listen. Instead, her stepmother ordered her to go to the kitchen and prepare dinner. Ijeoma tried to explain that she had not eaten anything at the palace, but her stepmother did not care. She told her she would go hungry as a punishment for talking to the prince. Tears rolled down Ijeoma's cheeks as she made her way to the kitchen. She was tired, hungry, and sad, but she had no choice. Her stepmother and her children went inside to relax, while she was left to cook for them. 2 days had passed since the prince last saw Ijeoma. He could not stop thinking about her, so he decided to find out where she lived. He asked around the village, and soon someone gave him her house address. Without wasting time, he set out to visit her. The prince arrived at the compound, and the moment he stepped in, Chine's eyes brightened with excitement. She could not believe the prince was in their home. Her heart pounded with joy, but the prince was looking for only one person, Ijeoma. Chine watched in disappointment as his eyes searched for the girl she envied the most. Chine quickly welcomed the prince, offering him a seat before Ijeoma could react. The prince sat down, but when Chine tried to sit next to him, he asked her to leave. With anger, Chine stomped into the house, raising dust as she went. Ijeoma sat uncomfortably, unsure why the prince had come all the way to see her. As they spoke, Ijeoma's stepmother suddenly appeared. She smiled at the prince and greeted him politely. Her tone was unusually sweet, a stark contrast to how she usually spoke to Ijeoma. "Good day, my prince," she said. "Good day, Ma. It is nice meeting you again." The woman quickly thought of a way to separate Ijeoma from the prince. She wanted her daughter, Chine, to take Ijeoma's place beside the prince. "My prince, Ijeoma was busy inside before you came," she lied. "She needs to finish her work, but my beautiful daughter Chine will stay and keep you company." Ijeoma frowned. "Ni, I have finished my house chores. I have nothing left to do." "Will you shut up and go inside?" her stepmother snapped. "Go to my room and take the clothes on the desk. Wash them all." "But I washed them yesterday," Ijeoma protested. "They are not clean enough. Wash them again," her stepmother ordered, then turned to the prince with a fake smile. "Nuam, please forgive her manners. She will be done soon." Ijeoma was surprised. Her stepmother had never spoken to her with such kindness before. She knew it was only because of the prince. The prince nodded in agreement. He would wait for Ijeoma. Chine took this as her chance to get close to him. She moved closer, trying to show off her beauty, but the prince stood up and walked to his car. He signaled his guards to keep Chine away. When she tried again, the guards blocked her path. Ijeoma finished her task and returned to meet the prince. He asked for permission to take her with him, and to her surprise, her stepmother agreed. The woman was sure that the prince had already fallen for Chine. She had seen him smiling earlier, and she believed that was a sign of love. Allowing Ijeoma to leave with him for now would not spoil anything. Chine was furious. "Mama, why did you let them go?" she complained. "He already likes you," her mother replied. "Did you not see the way he smiled at you? Letting Ijeoma go with him this one time will not hurt." Chine rolled her eyes. "That was not a real smile. He was mocking me." "Mocking you? Why?" her mother asked in surprise. "Because I was struggling with his guards to reach him," Chine admitted. Her mother gasped. "Oh, I did not realize it. Do not worry. When Ijeoma returns, we will deal with her. I truly thought he was smiling at you with interest." "Mama, you told me to make him notice me," Chine whined. So I did exactly that. Her mother sighed and shook her head. Yes, I did tell you that, but did I tell you to act like a village champion? But Mama, you said that was how you got Papa to notice you. Will you get out of my sight before I disfigure you? Her mother shouted. You cannot even use your brain properly. If it were food now, you would know exactly what to do. Meanwhile, Ijeoma was with the prince. He had taken her to a beautiful restaurant. It was grand, with golden lights and soft music. The air smelled of delicious food she had never seen before. The prince ordered a meal for them, but Ijeoma hesitated when she saw the cutleries on the table. She had never used them before. Prince Henry noticed her discomfort. Without making her feel embarrassed, he quickly called a waiter and asked for a spoon instead. Being shy and uncomfortable dining with the prince, Ijeoma quickly asked his purpose for wanting to see her. When she finally got the answer, she quickly declined it. Why? I said I like you. Don't you want to be my girlfriend? The prince asked, looking confused. My prince, I am concerned about what people would say. What my stepmother would obviously do to me if she finds out. I am scared about it, Ijeoma said sadly, gulping down a whole glass of water. Are you rejecting me because of what people would say? No, my prince, it's not like that. There are so many girls whose parents are wealthy, who you could settle down with. If we officially become a couple, people, especially your family, would say that I charmed you. Are you kidding me? Who in his right senses would think of such? I don't know, but what I know is that people would definitely speak ill about it. I don't blame you for thinking such, but you should know that nobody has a decision to make for you. You own your decision, so make it now, please. I will think about it, but for now, I need to go home before my stepmother gets angry, Ijeoma announced, and the prince immediately paid their bills. He ordered extra takeaway food for her, then they left. Ijeoma was dropped off at her house and given some cash for her stepmother, who was angrily sitting on a bench outside with her furious daughter standing by her side. Ijeoma, who knew what was going to happen, quickly gave her stepmother the cash to calm her upcoming anger. Her stepmother rejoiced, seeing the huge sum handed to her, but she was still not satisfied when she saw Ijeoma holding a plastic takeaway plate containing food. She angrily ordered Ijeoma to hand over the fancy bag with the takeaway food to Chinai. Ijeoma had no choice but to obey. By nightfall, after dinner had been consumed, Ijeoma's stepmother called her out for questioning. Ijeoma came out, holding a lantern in her hand, confused by the weird gaze from her stepsister and brother. She was questioned about her sudden departure with the prince. Nay, it was nothing serious. He just told me how... Ijeoma paused for a while before completing her statement. He told me how he likes Chinai, but felt shy to ask her out. Are you sure? Because he previously rejected my company, Chinai cut in. He also told me that he detested your company because he was shy to confront you. Are you sure of what you just said? Ijeoma's stepmother asked for confirmation. Yes, nay, I'm sure, Ijeoma assured. That is all right. You can go back now. Ijeoma stood from the sofa and headed back to her room, while Chinai, her brother, and her mother rejoiced. Ijeoma couldn't sleep that night. She kept pondering what she had told them, which wasn't true. She also thought about what she would gain if she became the prince's girlfriend, and how her stepfamily would beg for her mercy if she finally became the prince's wife. What am I even afraid of? She shouted to herself rudely. She decided to go tell them the exact truth, no matter how savage they might be. She decided to go tell them the exact truth, no matter how savage they might be. She immediately rushed out of her room and banged at everyone's door with courage. They came and wondered what was the need for banging. She told them she had something important to tell them. They settled down on the sofa, waiting for Ijeoma to say what she was eager to share. She then opened up the truth about Prince Henry liking her instead of Chine and why she had lied to them. Her stepmother immediately arose in anger. Her eyes stormed up in rage and gave Ijeoma a very hard slap, which echoed around the walls. Ijeoma could feel the internal and external pain from the slap. She quickly realized what she had said and regretted her selfish act, knowing fully well how she was detested. She tried telling them that she was only joking, but it was too late because she was beaten up by her stepmother and sister. When they were done, they threw her bags outside and told her never to come back for messing with their intelligence. Ijeoma mourned and sobbed in pain as sharp pains kept rotating around her body. She couldn't even stand up as it seemed like her leg was broken, but she persisted and managed to move back to their door, begging them to open it so she could at least pass the night inside, but to no avail. Fear of the night and pain teamed up together and tormented her. She thought of where to go at that late hour but had no solution, so she decided to lay by the corridor for the night. Day came, and she woke up feeling uneasy, but had to go away from the house before she received another beating, which would be worse. She packed all her belongings, which were discarded roughly in one bag, and headed to Ezine's house. Ezine, who had a wrapper tied around her waist and a bucket in her hand ready to fetch water, sighted Ijeoma walking hopelessly and weakly with her bag hung on her back. She rushed immediately to help her out. Ijeoma collapsed as her bag was taken off her. Ezine and her mother felt pity for her and permitted her to stay in their house for a while. She was also taken to the pharmacist for treatment and was fed because she looked like a hungry lion. Ijeoma was so grateful for their hospitality and showed her gratitude by helping Ezine with house chores. 2 days later, Ezine's mother, Mrs. Enma, went to the palace to report the incident. On getting there, she was told by the gatekeeper to wait so he could inform the king about her unexpected arrival. After some minutes, she was granted permission to see the king in the main building. Inside the palace walls were beautiful furniture and fancy frames hung on each side of the main walls. The palace was cozy enough for an extended family to live in. Ezine bowed to the king as a sign of respect and stated her business, which the king and the prince heard about. She told the king how wicked and cruel Ijeoma's stepmother had been towards Ijeoma. She also added to it because she also disliked Ijeoma's stepmother very much. "What?" Prince Henry arose in anger. Prince Henry was so angry on hearing what Ezine's mother spilled out. He took permission from his father, the king, and ordered the guards to go summon Ijeoma's stepmother. Ijeoma's stepmother quickly rushed to the palace after hearing the message that was delivered to her by the palace guards. On getting there, her face showed signs of worry and curiosity. Her eyes locked on the smirking face of her worst enemy, who happened to be Ezine's mother. But she took no chances. Instead, she greeted the royal family and the elders who had gathered there, and greetings were exchanged. Prince Henry was ready to take action, but the king, his father, cautioned him. The king explained the reason for the urgent call and asked Ijeoma's stepmother if what he had heard was true. Ijeoma's stepmother was shocked. She couldn't believe that her hidden actions had been exposed. She wondered who had told the king the truth about her. Her eyes slowly turned towards Ezine's mother. She knew without a doubt that she was the one who had exposed her. Knowing that there was no way to deny it, she confessed. Her voice was shaky, and the truth echoed through the palace halls. The king listened carefully, his face firm and full of disappointment. He then made a decision. Ijeoma's stepmother was banned from attending women's meetings and any gathering that involved the palace. As punishment, she was ordered to farm on the king's land for 4 years. Ijeoma's stepmother was shocked. The punishment was too much for her to bear. Her legs became weak and her heart felt heavy. Tears filled her eyes as she fell to the ground, pleading for mercy, but it was too late. Everyone in the palace had heard the truth, and no one felt sorry for her. She was dragged out of the palace, and she walked home in tears. When she arrived at her house, her children were outside. Chine was carrying a bundle of firewood on her head, while Emeka was sharpening a small knife with a stone. As soon as Chinai saw her mother walking unsteadily, her face wet with tears, she quickly dropped the firewood and ran to her. Emeka looked up and saw his mother too. He stood up at once and followed Chinai. They helped her inside the house. Ijeoma's stepmother sat down and wiped her tears. She took a deep breath and then told her children everything that had happened at the palace. She explained how Ezine's mother had exposed her, how the king had punished her, and how she had no choice but to accept it. As she spoke, Emeka's face darkened. His fists clenched tightly, and his breathing became heavy. Anger boiled inside him. Without saying a word, he stood up suddenly and marched towards the door. Chine saw him and quickly called out, her voice filled with concern. "Where are you going?" she asked. Emeka did not stop walking. His steps were quick and full of rage. "To end this," he said, his voice low but firm. Chine's heart started beating fast. She rushed after him, blocking his way. "To end what?" she asked again, her eyes filled with fear. Emeka turned back and looked at her, his face burning with anger. "Aren't I specific enough?" he said. "I am going to consign her body to the grave." Chine's breath caught in her throat. Her hands started shaking. She swallowed hard before asking, "Whose body are you consigning exactly?" Ijeoma's stepmom went home with tears and sorrow, but settled down to make a plot against Ijeoma. Meanwhile, Ezine's mother was presented with guards to protect her and Ijeoma, and was given an order to banish her stepmom if she attempted any evil moves. Ijeoma's stepmom, still filled with bitterness and resentment, could not let go of the anger that burned within her heart. She could not accept the punishment given to her and was determined to take matters into her own hands. She spent days thinking, planning, and scheming in silence. She refused to eat properly and spoke very little, her mind clouded with dark thoughts of revenge. One evening, after making sure no one was listening, she called her children, Chine and Emeka, into a small room inside their house. Her face was serious, and her eyes were filled with hatred. She whispered to them about her plan to get rid of Ijeoma once and for all. She explained how she had suffered disgrace because of Ijeoma, how the villagers had turned their backs on them, and how they could never live peacefully unless Ijeoma was gone. Chine and Emeka, who had always been taught to see Ijeoma as their enemy, listened carefully and nodded in agreement. For days they watched and waited, looking for the perfect moment to carry out their mother's wicked plan. They knew that Ijeoma was now staying with Ezine's mother and that guards had been placed to protect her. This made their mission harder, but they refused to give up. They spent time observing the guards, noticing when they changed shifts, and trying to find the best way to sneak in without being seen. One night, when the village was quiet and most people were asleep, Ijeoma's stepmom and her children decided that it was time to act. They dressed in dark clothes and moved silently through the village, avoiding the eyes of anyone who might still be awake. Their hearts pounded in their chests as they approached Ezine's mother's house. They carried small knives and a bottle of poison, ready to use them as soon as they got inside. Emeka led the way, while Chinai and their mother followed closely behind. They tiptoed towards the house, believing that no one had noticed them. But they were wrong. The guards, who had been secretly watching them for days, had already suspected that Ijeoma's stepmom would try something evil. They had been instructed by Ezine's mother to stay alert at all times. As soon as the three intruders reached the house, the guards sprang into action. Before they could even step inside, they were surrounded. Ijeoma's stepmom and her children froze in fear. They had been caught. The guards quickly restrained them, taking away their weapons and dragging them towards the palace. Their plan had failed. The noise woke up the villagers, who came out of their houses to see what was happening. When they realized that Ijeoma's stepmom had tried to harm Ijeoma, they were filled with anger. People whispered among themselves, shaking their heads at her wickedness. They could not understand why she hated Ijeoma so much. Ezine's mother was called to the scene. When she saw Ijeoma's stepmom and her children caught red-handed, she was deeply disappointed. She had given them a chance to change, but they had chosen evil once again. Without hesitation, she declared that they would be banished from the village immediately. The villagers cheered in agreement, happy that justice had been served. The guards wasted no time in carrying out the punishment. Ijeoma's stepmom and her children were thrown out of the village, forced to leave behind everything they had ever known. They begged for mercy, but no one listened. Their past actions had sealed their fate. As they disappeared into the darkness, Ijeoma felt a weight lifted from her shoulders. She could finally live without fear. She was grateful to Ezine's mother and the villagers for standing by her and protecting her from harm. She knew that life would never be the same, but she was ready to embrace her new beginning. From that day forward, Ijeoma was treated with kindness and respect. She was given a new home and surrounded by people who cared for her. She no longer had to worry about the cruelty of her stepmother. She could finally smile and sleep in peace. The villagers learned an important lesson that night. They saw how jealousy and hatred could destroy a person. They also saw how love and kindness could bring healing. They promised to always stand up for what was right and to never allow evil to go unpunished. As for Ijeoma's stepmom and her children, they vanished into the unknown. No one ever saw them again. They became a story, a warning to future generations about the dangers of holding on to anger and bitterness. The village moved on, stronger and wiser than before, knowing that justice had been served, and so peace was restored, and life continued as it should. The stars shone brightly in the sky, a reminder that even in the darkest times, light would always find a way to shine through. After much contemplation, Ijeoma finally decided to accept the prince's affection. She had grown to admire his kind heart and genuine nature, and she couldn't deny the strong connection they shared. She knew he was a good man, and she believed he truly cared for her. Deep in her heart, she felt happy, even though she never imagined that one day she would be loved by a prince. Her life had changed so much, and she was grateful for everything. Time passed, and Ijeoma and the prince spent more moments together. They walked in the palace gardens, enjoying the cool breeze and the scent of flowers. The prince always made sure Ijeoma felt special. He treated her with kindness and respect. He wanted her to know that she was the most important person in his life. The palace staff and guards were happy to see their prince smiling and filled with joy. They believed that Ijeoma was the perfect match for him. As days turned into weeks, The bond between Ijeoma and the prince grew stronger. He surprised her with beautiful gifts, took her to places she had never been before, and shared stories about his childhood. Ijeoma listened with great interest, enjoying every moment. She felt safe with him. She knew he was not just a prince, but a man who loved her with all his heart. The prince loved to show Ijeoma the beauty of the kingdom. They rode horses through the fields, watched the sun set over the hills, and visited villages where people welcomed them with warm smiles. The people loved Ijeoma, and they were happy that their prince had found someone as kind as her. They saw that she had a good heart and believed she would make a great queen. One evening, under the bright moon, the prince took Ijeoma to the palace balcony. He held her hands gently and looked into her eyes. He told her how much he loved her and how he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her. Ijeoma was overwhelmed with happiness. Tears filled her eyes as she nodded. She knew she loved him too, and she wanted to be with him forever. When the prince announced his engagement to Ijeoma, the entire kingdom rejoiced. There was music, dancing, and laughter everywhere. People celebrated for days, singing songs about their beloved prince and his beautiful bride. The palace was decorated with flowers, and preparations for the grand wedding began. On the wedding day, Ijeoma looked stunning in her white gown. The prince stood proudly beside her, dressed in his royal robes. The ceremony was beautiful, filled with love and joy. Guests from far and near came to witness the special occasion. There was food, music, and fireworks that lit up the night sky. Everyone agreed that it was the most beautiful wedding the kingdom had ever seen. After the wedding, Ijeoma and the prince became king and queen. They ruled the kingdom with wisdom and kindness. They worked together to help the people, making sure that everyone was happy and safe. Ijeoma used her position to help women and children. She built schools so that every child could get an education. She also opened hospitals to take care of the sick. The people loved their queen and praised her for her kindness. The kingdom became prosperous under their leadership. Trade flourished, farmers had good harvests, and there was peace everywhere. The people were happy and they loved their king and queen. The royal couple continued to visit villages, listening to the needs of the people and making sure everyone had a good life. As years passed, Ijeoma and the prince remained deeply in love. They never let their duties take away the special moments they shared. They would still take walks in the garden, enjoy the cool evening breeze, and watch the stars at night. Their love grew stronger with each passing day. Their story became a legend. People told it to their children, teaching them that true love is kind, patient, and strong. It was a reminder that love can change lives and bring happiness. And so, the prince and Ijeoma lived happily ever after, ruling their kingdom with love and wisdom, leaving behind a legacy that would be remembered forever. The most important lesson in the story is that jealousy and hatred can lead people to do very bad things, but in the end, evil never wins. Ijeoma's stepmother was full of anger and wanted to harm Ijeoma, but her bad plans failed, and she was punished. On the other hand, Ijeoma, who was kind and innocent, was saved and given a better life. This teaches us that being good and honest will always bring happiness, while being jealous and mean will only bring shame and trouble. It is always better to love and help others instead of trying to hurt them. And with that, my dear friends, our story come to a close. But remember, the magic of storytelling lives on, waiting to whisk us away on new adventures where the wonders of imagination know no bounds. Goodbye for now, and may your dreams be filled with joy, wonders, and endless possibilities. Thank you so much for watching. Please kindly comment, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting stories.